The path to salvation has been opened, but will what lies beyond the doorway be a sanctuary, or will it become a tomb for those who enter? With that being said, I will say spoiler warnings for those who have not seen episode 13 of RWBY Volume 8. I won't be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video, simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. I will leave a link in the description below so you guys can go to Rooster Teeth first, watch the episode there, and support the series that we all love. Now, the episode begins as the portals are created by Ambrosius, and one of those portals appeared in the communications room that Jean, Ren, Nora, Oscar, and Emerald are in. They have some obvious concerns, however, considering that a majority of their message didn't get out, and the people don't actually know what these magical things are that appeared in front of them. So they come up with a plan to, well, go through the portals on foot and tell everyone in person that this is going to be how they will escape Atlas. Plus, they don't actually know if these portals work, so Jean decides to be the guinea pig, or it's decided for him, and he goes through the portal first. After he goes through, the rest of the group follows, and they enter the realm created by Ambrosius. It is here that they decide to split up, however, that Jean and Nora will be the ones to go through the portals and help the people of Atlas through them so that they can get to Vacuo, where Oscar, Ren, and Emerald will be waiting. It's kind of bold for Jean and Nora to be jumping off of these platforms as freely as they are, but considering they don't know the warning given by Ambrosius, do not fall, it makes sense why they are so eager to do so. Plus, they're also confident in their abilities. Jean is the first to go through one of the portals into the subway, and of course, the people are afraid of what just appeared in front of them. So they push one guy forward and he throws a rock at the portal. Just as Jean goes through it, then it hits him in the head. But he pulls out his huntsman license and tells everyone that he's going to need them to follow his lead. And so he begins guiding everyone through the portals. We then see all of Team RWBY and Penny arrive through the portal as well. And Penny is flying using her maiden powers. She adjusted a lot quicker to her human body than I initially thought, as I had a feeling she would try to fly using, the machine capabilities that she has been used to using for the past few months, or however long it had been since she was upgraded to Penny 2.0, and then realized that she can't, having to then rely on the maiden powers. But she's adjusted very quickly and is able to hover using the maiden powers. All of Team RWBY has arrived through the portal now, and, well, they are a bit surprised that there isn't more people than there already is. They didn't know that all of the communications had been shut down. But regardless, people are still trickling in. As Jean and Nora are helping the people of Atlas, the Happy Huntresses are helping the people of Mantle, and they are slowly getting people to safety. As Team RWBY makes their way towards the portal to Vacuo, their overall goal to just get Penny and the relic there, Oscar, Ren, and Emerald pass through the portal and enter the desert in the middle of a storm where they can't really see anything. Supposedly, this portal was supposed to put them very close to the city of Vacuo, enough space for refugees, but still close enough for communications to be able to, contact the city. And, well, the sandstorm is not only hindering their visibility, so they can't even see the city, but it's also knocking out communications. And as the citizens of Atlas and Mantle begin to arrive, well, welcome to Vacuo! This is your new home, and it's not looking too great from the get-go. Back in the realm, however, things are starting to look even worse. As the people of Atlas and Mantle continue to arrive, along with them comes Cinder Fall. And the first thing she does is cause an explosion on one of the platforms and send about a dozen people falling off of them. With these platforms being as small as they are and the volume of people, any fighting that breaks out is going to have people falling off of them constantly. And, unfortunately, Cinder doesn't really care about any of them. As she created this explosion, everyone else is shocked, and Team RWBY jumps into action. They go to confront Cinder and leave Penny telling her to go through the portal to Vacuo. But as they confront Cinder, they realize that she knows much more than she should, that something else must have happened. And it is here that we find out what happened when Neo went to confront Cinder at the end of episode 11. Cinder actually apologized to Neo for not holding up her end of the bargain, and tells Neo that she can get her ruby today. But I just need to ask a question of the relic. And Neo reluctantly agrees to this. She was hiding the relic in her hat. It had shrunk down that much. Neo pulls it out and hands it to Cinder. but doesn't hand it over that easily. She glares at Cinder, knowing that she can't really trust her, so Neo is still on the fence about that, but is deciding to nonetheless. This may seem a bit strange that Neo is still trusting Cinder with all of this after everything Cinder had done, but Neo really doesn't have anywhere else to go, and she is focused on revenge. That is all she's thinking about. That is all she wants at this point. If the song One Thing told us anything, the only thing that was important to Neo was Roman. And now that she thinks that RWBY killed Roman, the only thing important to her is revenge on RWBY, and she will go to any length to get that, even trusting someone who's betrayed her as many times as Cinder has. But she hands over the relic to Cinder, and Cinder calls upon Jinn, asking her the question, what has RWBY and her friends planned? Jinn is surprised by this question, and looks to be saddened by it as well. Jinn has her own personality, her own thoughts, likes and dislikes, including people that she likes. And she's fond of Ozpin, the old man, and likely of RWBY and the rest of her team as well. So I'm sure she didn't want to give this information to Cinder, but it is her duty as the Relic of Knowledge to answer the questions asked of her. So she shows Cinder, Neo, and Watts everything that transpired at the Schnee Manor, the entire plan that Team RWBY and everyone came up with. And as Cinder is watching this all unfold, she realizes that Emerald is there. But Cinder doesn't go off in a rage immediately. She, at this point, given that she's realizing that she's made some mistakes and kind of made some people around her angry, she may have realized that she's treated Emerald very poorly as well. And if they come face to face again, she might try to apologize to Emerald and convince Emerald to come back to her side. And I really hope that Emerald is smart enough not to fall for this, because Cinder's not going to make this miraculous epiphany and turnaround in her life after only a few hours and one time being told off by Watts. I really don't think that she's going to change that much as a person. Just realize how to manipulate people better is the way I think it's going right now. It is a bit disappointing that this is how the final question of the Relic of Knowledge was used, but it does make sense for Cinder learning everything that Team RWBY was planning. I would have thought, since Watts was able to hack into the conversation between Ironwood and RWBY, he would have been able to do the same for when Weiss was filling Winter in on the plan, but this makes sure that Cinder knows a more complete version of the plan, at least. It does mean that we won't see a question asked about what happened to Roman Torchwick at the fall of Beacon, or what happened to Summer Rose on her last mission, or anything like that. We will have to find out the information another way. And this also means that this could be the last time we will see Jinn until, well, the finale of RWBY, when the relics are united together. Unless, of course, Jinn can be summoned without needing a question to be asked of her. We did see that at the end of Volume 6, so it's possible, though she might not respond since she has no questions left, but she might respond if she's brought close to the Relic of Creation, perhaps, her brother Ambrosius, and they might have a little interaction there, or one of the other relics, or something like that. I'd be really curious to see if that plays out. But after learning RWBY's plan, Cinder offers Watts the opportunity to finish what he started with Atlas, to bring the kingdom to its knees. And so, after asking the question of Jinn, and before Atlas begins to fall, Cinder, Watts, and Neo break into the Atlas facility, in particular, the command center, and take out everyone there. Not necessarily killing them all, as we do see Neo just knock out the last person, but I'm sure that anyone attacked by Cinder, and Watts, considering he was using a gun at the time, is likely going to be dead or left in critical condition. So I doubt they're going to be escaping Atlas before it falls, so even if they are still alive, they're pretty much as good as dead, I would guess. Which, unfortunately, means that good old Bill is likely going down with the ship. And if the ideas are true, that Bill is actually a nickname for William, as in William Scarlatina, well, this might mean that Velvet's father is going to end up dead. Because if you guys didn't already know, Velvet Scarlatina's father is a scientist in Atlas, and considering Bill has the mug, #1 dad, #1 dud, Velvet doesn't really look too kindly on his father, and her father doesn't really look too kindly on himself at that, so this kind of fits, and, well, we might be seeing Velvet crying very soon because, well, her father's not going to be one of the ones exiting from that portal in Vacuo. But we'll have to wait and see how things turn out, as right now, Watts takes control of the computer and starts working his magic, saying that this is all he ever wanted. Cinder, as she's leaving the room, tells Watts that he deserves this, and that she will be back for him. Now, I'm curious as to what she means by those words. You deserve this. Does she mean deserve the opportunity to take revenge on those who wronged him, or deserve to be left behind and go down with Atlas, the kingdom that betrayed him? Because I have a feeling Cinder's not going to be back for him, as she's preoccupied at the moment fighting in the vaults. But while Watts is working his magic, he sees Jean's communication comes up, and just as I thought, he is the one that hits the button and cuts off all communications, just as Jean tells everyone that Atlas is falling. But that's not the only thing he manipulates while he's at this command center. He then sees the ship in the hangar that has the bomb that is meant for Mantle, as well as Qrow and Robin restraining the Aesops. So, as they are restraining them, and Marrow is keeping them in place thanks to his semblance, Robin is trying to handcuff them. She is able to get cuffs around Elm, but before she can actually get the cuffs on Harriet or Vine, a Atlesian knight walks into the room. It turns towards them, and we see Watts shifting the camera on his computer. And then we see the blue light of its faceplate turn to red, and it starts charging towards them, going to self-destruct. Marrow, not wanting his friends to die, jumps in the way and takes a brunt of that explosion. His aura ends up breaking and he falls unconscious. But Atlas then starts to tilt, and the ships that are present start to fall out of the hangar. Before they can actually fall out, though, Harriet takes that opportunity and runs aboard the ship with the bomb, and Vine follows her. He's able to grab onto the hatch just at the last moment as the ship falls out, and of course Qrow and Robin knows what this means. That Harriet intends to deliver the bomb to Mantle. So Harriet is determined to deliver this bomb even though the staff has already been removed from the vault. She doesn't know if Ironwood has it, considering Marrow showed up to stop the Aesops in the hangar. She already knows that Winter's a traitor, so likely Ironwood doesn't have it, but the city of Atlas is already falling. Just throwing a bomb at the city of Mantle seems a bit extra, considering the city itself is going to do much more damage when it hits the ground and wipe out everyone anyways, but still, she has a lot of anger in her, and that's driving her forward at the moment. And speaking of Ironwood, we then see him wake up in his cell, and Jacques starts gloating to him. Well, looks like you lost, Ironwood. Well, technically, we both lost. But thanks to Cinder and the damage that she caused in that room, conveniently enough, the cell around Ironwood stops working, and he is able to step out of his cell and grab the weapons that were just left right next to it, which, is not a great idea, just leaving the prisoner's weapons right outside his cell, but I kind of also understand that, considering the city started to drop before Winter even put him in the cell. So she probably just tossed him in there, tossed his weapons aside, and then went down to help, well, keep going with the plan, which is exactly what she did. But we'll get to that a bit later, as Ironwood steps out of the cell, grabs his weapons, and Jacques asks him, you're gonna let me out of here too, right? Of course he will! And Ironwood just turns his guns towards him and blasts the cell with a laser directly at Jacques. So, given what we see of the room afterwards, that everything seems pretty wiped out, and this gun seems to be a replica of Penny's lasers, which we know how strong those things are, you think Jacques' alive after this? My gut says probably not, and even if he was alive, who's gonna come to rescue him? How is Jacques gonna get to one of the portals? I think this pretty much spells the end for Jacques Schnee. Though it is also entirely possible, considering Klein, Willow, and Whitley are still on a ship, that they might fly to the prison cell and try to get Jacques out at that point, the rest of his family coming to his rescue even though he doesn't deserve it. Possibly. But, again, we'll have to see what happens next episode. I wouldn't honestly mind if Jacques just ended up dead there. But one thing's for certain, even though Ironwood's aura was broken, and supposedly his semblance was deactivated, that semblance that allows him to focus on his goals, well, obviously those goals are still pretty rooted in his mind, and he's still wanting to push forward with his plan, which seems pretty much, insignificant now, considering Atlas is already falling, but still, he wants to move forward. And then we cut back to the realm created by Ambrosius, as Cinder fights against Team RWBY. And Cinder is saying that she's learned a lesson thanks to this experience, that sometimes if you want to win, you can't do it alone. Which is surprising to me that she's only just now learning this, because does she really think that she orchestrated the fall of Beacon Academy alone? That she didn't get help from, well, Neo already, Roman, Emerald, Mercury? They seem pretty significant in that, not to mention the White Fang. She didn't do that alone. She hasn't done anything alone this entire series, but she's been so conceited that she's thought that she's been the one doing everything, orchestrating everything, and yeah, she's still a little bit delusional. And Neo is sneaking up behind RWBY as she says this. Yang sees at the last moment as Neo lunges for RWBY, and Yang jumps in the way, taking the full brunt of Neo's attack. And since Yang had activated her semblance and took this attack, I'm guessing that was enough damage to actually break Yang's aura, because her aura broke, and she fell off of the side of the platform. Everyone looks in shock, and Neo enraged that she wasn't able to actually get the surprise attack on RWBY, but still, Blake runs over to the edge of the platform and throws out Gamble Shroud to try to catch Yang before she falls, but the end of the ribbon comes before it is able to reach Yang, and she plummets into the darkness, disappearing into nothing. Yang is the first major character to fall in the final battles of Volume 8, and we don't actually know what happened to her. We don't know what these vaults actually are. Whether she can still come back or not is up in the air, and we may not even find out in the finale. Likely we might find out in the after-credits scenes, but it's very possible that this could be Yang's ultimate end, because I don't really see a feasible way that she should be able to return from these vaults or from this darkness. We don't know what these vaults entail. They exist outside of Remnant. And if the hints that have been given to us throughout the volume so far, the girl who fell through the world, this could be referring to Yang or all of Team RWBY if they're going to fall in the order that we see in the opening of Volume 8. That it'll first be Yang, then Blake, then Weiss, then RWBY, which, again, we'll have to see in the finale, but they aren't the same people when they return to Remnant again, or return to the world in which they left. So this doesn't really bode that well for Bumblebee as a whole, or Team RWBY as a whole, really. And I'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but I do want to mention now that Raven could not have saved her, as I feel like that's a conclusion a lot of people are going to jump to. Well, Raven's semblance cannot transcend realms, especially those created by the Relic of Creation. There is no way that Raven could have created a portal from Remnant into this realm that supposedly the only entrances and exits were the portals created by Ambrosius. Raven could not come to save Yang unless she was already in that realm, which is something I'll touch on a bit later. After Yang falls, Blake screams after her, and Penny hears it from across the realm. As she turns to see what's happening with her friends, she activates the Maiden Eyes and decides to join the battle, instead of following through with the plan and heading to Vacuo. Before RWBY can really process what happened, Neo attacks her once again, as Blake breaks down, crying. But only for a moment, as it quickly turns to rage as she turns and attacks Neo. Unfortunately, for it to only be an illusion, as Neo has continued her assault on RWBY. Weiss is left to fight against Cinder, as her glyphs are being burned away, and Penny charges in, asking Cinder why she didn't learn her lesson from last time. But Cinder did learn her lesson. As Penny realizes she has the relic still on her back, she is hit by an attack and forced backwards. She then uses her magic to conjure a number of blades and continues the fight against Cinder in the air. Weiss ran over to another platform and uses her glyphs to support Penny, holding Cinder back with gravity. But Cinder conjures up a bunch of glass shards and sends them flying at Weiss. Weiss tries to summon an Armagigas blade. A massive one at that, consider the size of this blade, that Weiss is standing about the width of it, and how tall an Armagigas, normally stands compared to the size of its blade. Weiss can summon a massive Armagigas if she so chooses, so that's something we might see in the future. But Anyways, she tries to block these glass shards that are flying towards her, and is able to block a number of them, but a number of them also get past her, potentially impaling a number of citizens and even getting through the portal, possibly impaling people there. The glass shards in the ground, just as Cinder is known for with her arrows, start to glow and then explode, sending Weiss flying off of the platform. Her aura is not broken, however. She is able to conjure a gravity glyph and stop herself mid-air. So even though Weiss took this brunt of the explosion, her aura was not broken, but Yang's was from that one attack by Neo. That would have been a fatal attack from Neo, and potentially this explosion wasn't, so I'm guessing Neo's attack was just stronger, and with Yang's semblance already active, I think the damage that she would take would be more impactful at that point. Because I don't really recall that after activating her semblance that Yang has taken much damage. That could also explain why Adam was able to cut through all of Yang's aura and her arm at that point in the past, that maybe her aura was not as strong by activating her semblance. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think on that one in the comments down below. And as this is happening, Blake is fighting against Neo alongside RWBY, but she hears Weiss scream from the explosion. So she turns to see Weiss floating in mid-air and Penny continuing to fight against Cinder alone. So she's at a bit of a loss as to what to do. Either go and help Penny fight against Cinder, or continue her grudge against Neo, helping RWBY fight against her. So I think the smart choice, and I think what Blake is going to end up doing, is going to join the fight against Cinder and hopefully prevent her from getting the Maiden Powers and the Relic from Penny, but I think RWBY's in need of assistance against Neo as well, because Neo is very agile, plus she has her semblance of illusions, so even though RWBY has her speed, I think Neo is going to be able to take RWBY out without too much difficulty, so we'll see how things play out there, and see what choice she ends up making next episode. As we then cut to inside the ship where the bomb is. Harriet is flying it, but notices that the hatch is open. As she goes down, she sees that Vine was able to make it aboard. At first, she's happy to see him, and goes to arm the bomb, making sure that it's ready. But Vine stops her, saying that I don't know if this is the logical course of action anymore, which, of course, it's not. He points out that Ironwood's been taken out, that the relic is already removed from the vault, Atlas is falling, but Harriet is focused on the principle. It's the principle of it. It's all about loyalty. Clover would have done the same. He would have followed through. I don't know about that one. I don't know if Clover would have followed through with this plan, given everything that's gone on, but Harriet thinks that Clover would, and that is partially what's driving her forward. Vine says that Clover was important to her, and Harriet starts to break down crying. I think I was right in what I mentioned before, that Harriet was in love with Clover, and with Clover being killed, she is so angry that she can't see reason, that she is only focused on what is in front of her, much like Ironwood, and just wants to get back at those who have hurt her. In particular, Qrow. But before she and Vine can actually, start talking things out, Robin crashes into the ship with a ship of her own, and Harriet gets angry. Ends up kicking Vine out of the ship, arming the bomb while doing so, and goes to pilot the ship once again. As Vine clings to the exterior of the ship, holding on for dear life, though I think if he were to fall from that height, he would be able to survive using his semblance, Robin sees that he's falling and actually goes to pick him up. So, even though Robin is working against them, she doesn't want anyone to die. Harriet retakes the wheel of her ship, turning off the autopilot, but then, strangely, sees a bird flying directly towards the windshield. But surprise, this bird has a sword and isn't actually a bird at all. It's Qrow, as he smashes through the window and he and Harriet begin fighting. Looks like Harriet is going to get her chance at revenge after all. And so they start fighting in the hangar, or the hatch, where the bomb actually is. One wrong swing from Qrow's sword and that bomb could go up on its own, because it's armed and ready to go, so presumably it's either on a timer or it could just go off on impact, so I really hope that Qrow doesn't end up dying here, and I'm curious to see how things are going to play out, because as they are fighting, Watts is still in his facility, gets up the specs of the ship and is able to take control of the autopilot and begins piloting it directly towards Mantle. So he's going to try to crash the ship, take them all out with it, and Perhaps Harriet will decide to go down with the ship, perhaps they'll all be able to jump out at the last moment, get through one of the portals in Mantle, get to this in-between realm, and join the fight if the fight's still going on, but we'll have to see how things play out. I'm curious to see if Qrow's actually going to end up killing Harriet or something along those lines. And speaking of people potentially killing each other, we then cut to the vault under Atlas Academy, where that other portal created by Ambrosius for RWBY and her friends to get through, well, Winter is there, and she's not able to contact anyone. The signal is still down. And as she's there, she sees a little red dot on the floor. As the red dot goes into the middle of her chest, she realizes that she's being targeted. She puts up a glyph at the last moment to block the laser blast, but unfortunately it still does break through her defenses. Ironwood has come to challenge her. He says that he's always had his eye out for people betraying him, but he never expected that betrayal to come from Winter, and gives her one final order. He knows what's best for Atlas. He will get the relic, so step aside. But Winter has always fought against the enemies of Atlas, and she won't stop now. So she readies herself to fight against Ironwood, and Ironwood readies himself as well. But he does shed a single tear from his left eye. So perhaps his right eye is actually artificial. We do know that he has that piece of metal over his right eye, and perhaps his entire eye was taken out at one point. So it's entirely possible that he's just not able to cry from that eye. But that's beside the point, as Ironwood and Winter charge one another, and this battle is most likely going to be to the death, for one or possibly both of them. And then we cut back to Vacuo for the final scene this episode. Many people are coming through the portal. The storm is still raging, and Ren has reached his limit. Masking the emotions of so many people took its toll, and his aura breaks. And as it does, everyone realizes that Penny should have been here already. Penny should be able to deal with this storm using the Maiden Powers. Oscar tries to run back through the portal, but is blown backwards. And Ozpin tells him, uh-oh, this was Ambrosius. Because Weiss conveniently said last episode that people will enter through the portals in Atlas, and as they exit the portal in Vacuo, they will have their one-way ticket there. And since she said those two words, one way, the portal on the exit to Vacuo can only be an exit. There is no way to return to that realm from Vacuo. So they're all trapped there. And with this entire kingdom's worth of negativity now concentrated here, the Grim begin to arrive, and we get our first look at the Ravagers, the bat-like Grim that can easily carry people away. They're smaller than Nevermore's, but much more vicious. Oh, and they can also release sonic waves that can reshape the environment around them. So, like, if they unleashed a sonic wave in that giant group of people, there'd be a lot of people who would be suffering from that. So it's not going to look too good unless help arrives. And this is where the episode ends. And speaking of help, I think I know how help is going to arrive. If they are that close to the city of Vacuo, as they probably gave specific coordinates for the portal to appear, they should know approximately how far away Vacuo is. And if by chance someone is there that can sense the minds of others, like Fox Alistair with his telepathy, then he will be able to signal everyone that they need to get there to help. Since Fox can sense the minds of others, he would certainly take notice, as long as they are within range, of these hundreds, if not thousands, of people coming through and just appearing in the middle of the desert. That would be very strange, and he would know that something is up and need to get them there. So next episode, I'm going to predict that at the very least, Team Coffee is going to come to help. Probably Team Sun will be along with them. Perhaps we will also see, Team Indigo, Team Auburn, maybe Professor Theodore and Rumpole as well. A number of people of Shade Academy. They do have a fully functional academy with all the huntsmen and the students that are there, so, they could easily come to help, because they certainly need it. Ren, Oscar, and Emerald did prepare themselves to fight, but with the horde that is coming and the amount of people that they have to protect, they will not be able to do it alone. There is one thing I am curious about, though. The fighting force from Atlas. All of the soldiers and huntsmen and huntresses of the Atlas military were all put onto the battlefield to defend against Salem's attack. Were there portals created for them? If there weren't, then there's not going to be much of a fighting force that's going to be able to come through those portals into the realm to either help with the fight against Cinder or help protect the citizens in Vacuo. I hope there was portals created there to help them get through, you know, Team Funky and the rest of the students that were likely put onto the battlefield, the other soldiers that are still alive. Things like that. We did see in episode 10 on Ironwood's computer that there was a number of soldiers still alive. It seemed like half of his army was wiped out, so the other half is still going to be there on the battlefield. If there was no way for them to escape, then they're all just going to go down with Atlas. So I feel like there was maybe portals for them, it's just that they haven't been told what exactly these are yet. And if there are portals on the battlefield, we're going to see Salem come through one of them as well, because we have not seen Salem regenerate yet. This finale is going to be intense with the amount of things that are going to happen. Salem is probably going to regenerate, have some part to play. If Monstra still has a part to play, because the thing hasn't disappeared yet, that's going to happen. There's also Cinder versus Penny, as well as Weiss and Blake, most likely too, and the Happy Huntresses might jump in there. We need to see if everyone else falls. There's going to be RWBY versus Neo. Perhaps Neo will finally learn that RWBY didn't actually kill Roman, and yeah, there's a lot of things that need to happen. Ironwood versus Winter, Harriet versus Qrow. So many fights need to happen in this finale that I'm expecting probably at least a half-hour finale with everything that's going on. And then we will see finally the city of Vacuo as the episode comes to a close, most likely, and then in the after-credits scene, perhaps see what happens to Yang as she has fallen through the realm, if she's still alive afterwards. Because I have a hard time believing that this is something easily escapable from. Ambrosius already implied saying, you guys are either really smart or really foolish, much more than you realize, creating a realm like the Vault, because they don't actually understand what they're dealing with. Ambrosius does, but it's not his job to inform them what it does, so Yang falling through this, we don't know what will happen. In my mind, since this is a realm outside of Remnant, she should be gone. Perhaps she will fall into somewhere in Remnant that is at some other point in time, and we will see when we get to Vacuo just an old version of Yang, like an elderly Yang or something like that, which would be an interesting way to go about things, or perhaps she'll experience all of the past time on Remnant, and we'll get to see flashbacks through that. As I mentioned in my previous video, perhaps falling through this time and space will show them things of the past. Team Stark flashback that will take place for all of Volume 9 and things like that. Which Yang falling might be followed by Blake, Weiss, and RWBY if it follows in the order of the Volume 8 opening. And as I mentioned before, Raven is likely not going to be able to save her. When Yang fell into the abyss, she disintegrated into yellow particles, and Raven's portals are very crimson red. We would have seen that if that popped up, and Raven's portals cannot cross dimensions. She does have the Maiden powers, yes, but the Maiden powers are only the trigger to open the vaults of, or open the doors of the vaults. They can't actually cross realms. Cinder or Penny, I don't think, could create a separate door out of this dimension, and I don't think Raven, even using her semblance, should be able to, but using the Maiden powers, perhaps it is possible. But one thing that is certain, I'm pretty sure, Raven is going to act based on this, based on Yang just going through this portal in general. Because of Raven's semblance kindred link, she has a link to all of those that she is bonded to. She can sense their emotions, sense when they are in danger. That's how Raven came to help Yang in Volume 2. She sensed that either Yang was in danger or just that Yang's aura was broken. Perhaps it is just another person's aura that Raven is able to sense through her kindred link. And by sensing Yang's aura was broken, she came and helped against Neo. But now, Yang would have disappeared from Remnant entirely by passing through that doorway into the other realm, which Raven certainly would have taken note of. But outside of Yang, who is in a different realm, and Vernal, who's unfortunately deceased, so Raven can't create a portal to either of them, Raven can only create a portal to 2 other people. Tai Yang Xiaolong, and Qrow Bronwyn, her brother. It is very likely that Raven saw RWBY's message and understands that Atlas is under attack, so maybe she started acting at that point, went to Tai Yang, and they've been discussing what to do. Perhaps Tai even has Raven's contact information and was able to contact her through some way. They've gotten in touch, and perhaps in this finale we will see Team Stark reunited, or at least 3 members of Team Stark, because Summer Rose, still up in the air what happened to her, but Salem probably either has her, has killed her, or something of the sort. We may find out a little bit about that next episode as well, perhaps in an after-credit scene. So a lot of things that could happen, but having a Team Stark reunion next episode would be very nice. If Raven did create a portal to Tai and then brought herself and Tai to Qrow, though, they still wouldn't be able to actually get to the portal in time or get through the portal to the realm to be able to save Yang. Raven could not have saved Yang, so she did fall into this darkness. And honestly, she could be gone. I don't know for certain, none of us know for certain yet, what happens when you fall. It's not necessarily instant death, but considering Yang disintegrated upon falling, or at least fell into darkness, we're not exactly sure what happened to her, she could be gone. This could be the first member of Team RWBY to die, which would mean that there's a lot of things unanswered, a lot of plot lines left unfulfilled. But just as in real life, stories end before they are finished. Yang could be gone. I really do not want her to be gone, and I honestly don't think she would be, considering Ambrosius just said, do not fall, implying that something would happen, not necessarily death. So Yang is likely alive, I'm going to say, but I'm not going to put it out of the realm of the possibility that she might be gone for good from RWBY. Considering, though, again, the fairy tales, she's probably going to come back, and if she does come back, likely everyone else who fell off of the platform too, knocked off by Cinder or the rest of Team RWBY if they end up following her, etc., but we will have to see. Anyways, I have rambled long enough. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about this episode, the battles that are going to take place for next episode, your predictions on who you think is going to follow Yang into the abyss, who is going to end up dying between Harriet and Qrow, Winter and Ironwood. You know, I think that Harriet might end up dying unless she can snap out of it, and I have a sinking feeling that Winter and Ironwood are both going to die in that scenario. Maybe Weiss will end up making it through the portal. Perhaps their fight will just take them through the portal in general, and they'll continue their fight in that realm. Maybe at that point they'll decide to join the fight against Cinder or something like that. And we also haven't seen Pietro and Maria. They just went down with Amity back in episode 5, and we haven't seen them since. So, was there a portal created for them? If they were having to give specific coordinates for each portal, probably not, because they don't know the crash site of Amity, so they might just be left in the tundra. We don't exactly know. And so there's a ton of things that need to happen in this finale, and I'm really curious to see what happens and to know what you guys think. But with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, the overall analysis of the episode. And if you guys want to see more RWBY videos in general, theories, analysis, discussions, etc., make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.